My father's flag. My father's flag don't sound.
The American flag has special significance for me. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and guests, I'd like to tell you my story. I remember when I was a little kid with my knees on the hardwood floor and my hands on the window ledge peeking over at the telephone pole in front of my apartment. There on that pole was a plaque, and it simply read, Walter Joseph Sam, PFC. And I thought, how neat is that? My dad's name right out in front of my house. The other kids don't have that. And then I thought, but I don't have my dad. Now my grade school was right across the street, and I remember we'd have a song fest, and everyone would come, all the parents, all the classmates, all the teachers, and one by one, our classes would go up there and sing. And I remember the lyrics to this one song that we sang. The lyrics were, "This is my father's flag." And again I thought, that is really neat. A song about my dad. But then I looked out in the audience and saw that their dads were out there. Their fathers. Now, years later, when I graduated from college, it was during the Vietnam War and during the draft, and I had a student deferment. I had talked to my wife, and I thought, I might be going to Vietnam. So I had to go to the Selective Service Board to be reclassified. I remember walking up those creaky steps to that courthouse and walking into that room, and there was a huge desk, and behind that desk was the recruiting officer. He had bars on his chest. He had braids on his shoulders, buttons, and spit-polished shine shoes, and stripes on his sleeve, and an eagle on his sleeve. It reminded me of the drill sergeant, and I never forget his words. I handed him my papers. He looked at me and he said, "Son, what in the hell are you doing here?" I said, "I'm here for my reclassification. I've had a student deferment." And then he said, "You're a sole surviving son. You've already served. Tell your mother back at Chicago to get your dad's death certificate. Send it into the Selective Service Board." I have already served. Now, during the Vietnam War, when it ended and the soldiers returned, they were treated disgustingly. We dishonored them. And every time the American flag is burned, it hurts. And after the newscast, as those names scroll by of those who have been killed in action, I searched that list for a city that I'm familiar with, for a state I may have traveled through, for a last name that I recognize. And I look at their age of those men and women, and I stand there with a tear running down my eye. Just a few years ago, I was at Joel Osteen's church. He had a visiting pastor, minister, who gave a great speech. And at the end of it, he said, would all those who lost a relative in the service please rise? I stood up. My son stood up. I thought for a minute, that's Jeff. Well, Jeffrey, Walter, Joseph, Sam. Now I have a few things of his. I have his rosary beads. I have his prayer book. And I have his Purple Heart. He was wounded 3 months before he went back into battle. His last battle in 44. But my most prized possession is this, because this is my father's flag. For a moment, would all those who have served in the military please rise? I am honored to be standing before you. Thank you. From my heart, thank you. You may sit down. Mr. Toastmaster.